Okay, fellas, let's get it on. Okay, fellas, let's get it on.
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Let's get ready to rumble!
This is Tony Thompson, chilling with boxing beats and rhymes.
I can't believe it's over.
Spence informing us that he had cataract surgery was a good indicator that the Terence Crawford rematch wasn't going to happen. The first fight was 6 months ago. The rematch was supposed to be in December. That's when Errol said he wanted to run it back. But, you know, even his trainer, Derek James, said it's time to move on. Derek, without saying there ain't going to be no rematch, told us there ain't going to be no rematch. And it certainly wasn't going to be in December. We're in the new year now. Maybe the clause is expired now. When is Errol going to be ready after cataract surgery? How long is Crawford supposed to wait? It's all fair in love and war. The first fight wasn't a 50-50 split. It was in favor of Errol Spence. He got the higher end of the split. But when Terence got control of the wheel, it was his decision what weight the rematch was going to be fought at. And he said 147, which more than likely would inconvenience Errol more than Terence. Although I don't believe that had any bearing in Errol's decision to take the fight or not. I really don't, because I don't believe he could beat Terence at any weight. I don't believe there's a stage of Errol Spence's career where he could have beat Crawford. That's my opinion. Spence informed us that he had cataract surgery on Tuesday, and in the Twitter post where he said this, he said, "Why do you think I took so much jabs and hooks? Still a good performance, bro." Well, how did he get past the eye test for the UGAS and Danny Garcia fight? If there was cataract damage, it more than likely was done by Terence Crawford when they fought. And that's what Terence is suggesting here. You gotta take eye tests before a fight. You know, so Errol went from he's not gonna make excuses to attempting to make an excuse, but he can't make an excuse. It's one of the most one-sided beatings we've ever seen in a fight so anticipated, although I always thought Crawford could win with something to spare. Spence said December we're going to run it back, but that was bravado, you know, and it was just bravado, wasn't it? It's like him saying the fight's not going to happen without actually saying it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So here's Terence Crawford on Twitter yesterday, verbatim. "I done heard it all now at Errol Spence Jr. It's okay though, because all in all, I'm glad it's over and done with. I wish you well, my brother." So he must have heard something. Maybe the PBC have told him to move on. The first fight was on pay-per-view. The one-sided nature of the fight makes it almost impossible for Al to take to Amazon Prime and say, yeah, we're going to make this into a pay-per-view then, on the strength of the first fight. Crawford, he could fight Boots and get back the belt that Boots now has, that Crawford didn't lose in the ring. That's the only viable fight at 147. They're talking about Crawford moving up to 168 and fighting Canelo. Could be a little way off right now. Charlo still has 2 straps at 154, however, and although he flopped against Canelo big time, Jamel, that's still a good fight for Errol Spence. And so is the Tim Tszyu fight, who's got one of the straps at 154.
I can't believe it's over.
Errol Spence, 2 fights in 2019, then after that, 1 fight a year. Fanboys might talk about the inactivity hampered his chances, but who's that down to? That's not Terence Crawford's fault, is it? And it's kind of like the eye injury where he said the cataracts were the reason he got hit with so many jabs and hooks. Well, he could have fought Crawford before he got the cataracts, or before he flipped over the Lambo, when he was in better shape to fight, but he chose not to. 33 years of age, the hard question has to be asked, does he carry on boxing? There's good fights out there for him. I suggest he does carry on. And although he's financially set, he's still leaving a bag load of money on the table by walking away. It's better he carries on now than return when he's late 30s. Obviously, carrying on after such a humbling loss, you have to wonder what's left in the tank. And if he is a diminishing force, he could hurt his legacy by carrying on. But he's a prize fighter, and ultimately, that will play a huge part if he carries on. How much is he going to get paid? So we'll see. By order of the British Boxing Board of Control, Solomon Dacres has been ordered to defend his English heavyweight title versus Moses Itauma. Purse bids are scheduled for February the 12th. Now, what do I think of this? Now, some people are saying it's too early for young Moses, but if they're serious about him being the youngest heavyweight champion ever, yes, he should be able to beat Solomon Dacres in his 8th fight. He's currently 7-0 with 5 inside the distance. Solomon, 8 wins, no losses. He's 30 years of age. He's the English champion. He recently made the conversion from Matchroom to Queensbury. My man Bass the Kid, he observed that's why Frank Warren signed Solomon. I think what Bass is saying is that he's fattening up Solomon to feed him to Moses. It's a dirty game. Matchroom didn't match the matching rights for Solomon's last fight against Michael Webster, which I believe he lost. I thought Webster won it. Webster went into the fight 9-0 from the Northeast. By Matchroom not matching the matching rights, it's basically letting Solomon go surplus to requirements. They didn't think he was bang for the buck. But this is a great chance for Solomon to prove his worth and stay in Frank Warren's good books. Because if he doesn't perform in this fight, if it goes ahead, he'll be at the bottom of the pecking order, behind Moses Itauma, behind David Adilier, behind Daniel Dubois, and obviously Tyson Fury. Now Moses, still only 19, he can't afford to take Solomon lightly. Perhaps some of Solomon's performances have been down to motivation. He hasn't felt that motivated. Well, if he's not motivated for this one, he never will be. And I believe it will be a tough fight, but a winnable fight for Moses. What do they do after, though, after winning the English title? Do they relinquish it? Because the more he defends it, the expectation will be to go for the likes of Fabio Wardley for the British title. Maybe Fabio would have vacated by that stage, but right now, I wouldn't put him anywhere near Fabio Wardley. 17 wins, 16 inside the distance. Hasn't went the distance since his debut in 2017. It's just too dangerous. Moses hasn't even had 10 fights yet. I'm not saying he couldn't do it, because he might just be that precocious kid. And if he believes he can do it, and he makes easy work of Solomon, Frank shouldn't stand in his way, because belief is what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Whether it's unrealistic belief or genuine belief, you've got to let the fighter go with his gut instinct. I will end this with a cautionary tale. He's only a 19-year-old heavyweight. This is the one weight class where they don't often mature until their late 20s, 30s. Solomon is 30. This could all end up being a big miscalculation, where Moses just can't deal with someone who might just be approaching their man strength, or they're in their man strength already. Moses might not be mentally mature enough yet. And then we're going to have to look at Frank Warren and ask, why did you turn this boy pro at 18? Why did you rush him into a fight like this? Frank won't give a toss though. He'll just wait for the next kid who was about to jump on the Olympic bus and say, oi, here's a contract here, you can fight pro. I've got the money. Saudi money. So Katie Taylor has vacated 2 straps at 135, IBF and WBO. So Caroline Dubois was supposed to fight for the IBF title against Matchroom's Rhiannon Dixon. Eddie said he's made this huge offer to Caroline Dubois. Caroline wasn't convinced that Eddie's about that life. Ben Shalom said he would let Caroline Dubois fight on Matchroom for the belt, which is stark contrast to the way the Fraser Clark, Fabio Wardley, Richard Riakporhe, Jai OPETAIA purse bids went last year. But that's what Ben Shalom said. Then all of a sudden, Eddie says Rhiannon Dixon has another option outside the IBF to go for a world title. I'm assuming it's the WBO belt that Katie Taylor vacated. And if she goes that route, Eddie then brings in his secret weapon. I've seen the girl fight Beatrice Ferreira. She would then contest Caroline Dubois for the vacant IBF strap. Now, I'm not sure if Ben Shalom or Caroline Dubois want to go that route. Caroline seemed to be suggesting that Eddie could get Rhiannon Dixon to take the fight if he persuaded her. But why would she say that? Why would she care who she's got to fight? As long as she gets a shot at the title. Does she believe she can beat Ferreira? Does Ben Shalom believe she can beat Ferreira? Is it intentional? I just get a feeling that Eddie Hearn likes torturing Ben Shalom, setting him up to fail, knowing that he's going to capitulate at the last minute when the heat gets too hot. And was it bait and switch? Would that be the correct metaphor? Was it bait and switch? Come over here and fight Rhiannon, and then all of a sudden, because a lot of people were saying the easier fight for Caroline was Rhiannon Dixon. That's what a lot of people were saying. A lot of people had her a clear favorite to win. But this Beatrice Ferreira thing is suggesting it's more 50-50. Maybe even in Beatrice's favor, I don't know. Let's see how this one plays out. Saudis, they see value in a champion like Jai OPETAIA, and he is to defend his Ring Magazine title on Fury versus USYK. He'll be on the undercard. Ring Magazine champion. He done the right thing, taking the bag. This will be his third defense. I mean, with the Saudis bankrolling his fights, why does he need a sanctioning belt? He could take any of the challenges that the WBC, the WBA, the IBF, which he vacated, or WBO, he can get any of them challenges with the Saudi bag. So what difference does it make? Some people are still skeptical whether Fury and USYK is going ahead. Some people are worried because it's not on BoxRec, but didn't they wait until the eve of the Ngannou fight before they put it on their site? They're saying Jai OPETAIA, but they don't have an opponent yet. They were saying Joe Cordina versus Anthony Kakase. None of this is confirmed yet. I'm assuming it's going ahead, 17th of February.
Eddie is despicable to have raised this issue when VADA, which is the premier drug testing organization in the world, has made it plain what happened. Atypical means that a trace is found in your blood or urine, which can come from something that the body produces.
And yo, if you're a laboratory head, correct me. Atypical doesn't mean it necessarily produces high elevation in the body. That's not what that means, right? The two substances that ARTUR tested high levels for are two substances that can be produced in the body and can elevate high. So you got that wrong for a start. The old fart shouldn't even be talking. The Merriam-Webster definition: atypical, irregular, unusual. Atypical form of a disease. Atypical weather for this area. What's Eddie Hearn got to do with it? What Bob's doing, he's deflecting. He knows it looks bad. Everyone knows it looks bad, right? But the anti-Macron brigade and I guess Beterbiev fans or whatever, they're trying to convince everyone that, yeah, this is just regular and normal. If it's regular and normal, why did Top Rank make a statement? Deflection tactics. Bob got stuck into Eddie and tried to divert whatever's going on with ARTUR onto Eddie. Ah, it's Eddie, it's Eddie, it's Eddie. No, it's not Eddie, it's Eddie, it's Eddie. It's ARTUR, it's ARTUR, it's ARTUR.
I want to make a few things clear from Bob Arum's comments, which I haven't brought this up. Top Rank released this information. We actually felt this information should have come out in December, but I'm responding to questions about an atypical finding. And this isn't an accusation about Beterbiev. I actually backed him. I said, it's not an adverse finding. This is not a positive test. Like anybody, there is concern. Like, we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't just go, hang on a minute, that don't sound right, because it's not right. That's why it's called atypical. That's why you're informed about it.
It's just deflection.
He walks past me, like this is at the presser. Firstly, I wasn't allowed up on the presser.
But you know.
Because Bob couldn't make the presser. So he basically said, it was supposed to be Callum, me and Buddy. But Bob basically said, if I'm not there, he's not going up either. And I was like, okay, I'll remember that next time he comes to the UK. But he's remarkable because he walks into the presser and he's like, Eddie, how are you? I'm like, hey, Bob, great to see you. You know, Carl Moretti gave me a Top Rank T-shirt. I was saying, look, Bob, stick that on later. And then literally 30 seconds later, he absolutely ruined me 5 yards away.
Block Eddie from the presser. What an idiot. Pretending he was angry with the Boxing Social interview. It's just deflection. Because he knows that there's a lot of numpties out there. You say anything negative about Eddie, they're on it, whether it's factual or total BS. Victor Conte, he had to get in on it. Isn't it hypocritical? Eddie's asking for evidence when Conor Benn didn't produce no evidence. So every PED case that comes up, you're just going to throw Conor Benn's name in to deflect. That this is ARTUR BETERBIEV's issue, not Conor Benn. I mean, someone with the reputation like Victor Conte, even he feels confident to go at Eddie Hearn on PEDs. It's crazy.
Any update on Josh Taylor on when we can anticipate that he's going to be out again? Obviously, there's the fight with Jack Catterall that a lot of people would like to see again.
Well, I think everybody would like to see it. And our people are working on Josh's next fight. Mm-hmm. When it's done, we'll have an announcement.
Mm-hmm. Do you anticipate it'll be within springtime?
Well, it ain't going to be in the winter. I'm not going to go in cold weather like this again.
It is pretty brutal outside, isn't it?
Okay, so basically, old Bob can't take the cold weather no more. So everybody has to wait for the fight until spring, till he says Josh Taylor can fight whoever, Catterall or whoever. What a selfish... I mean, no one's turning up to see Bob Arum if that fight takes place in the UK, Catterall and Josh Taylor. Why don't you watch it on ESPN on television at home? Step aside. And in the same interview, he also threw the BIVOL BETERBIEV fight into doubt. He said it will more than likely happen, but he was pretty negative with his language. So we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait. The interviewer said it would be around March. That's what she heard. And he said, well, it won't. Nah. Not for me. Nah, Bob Arum, nah. Adam Noble-Forsay spoke exclusively to Liam Smith ahead of Callum Smith's collision with ARTUR BETERBIEV in Quebec tonight. Liam said, I think he's a fucking cheat. Everything stinks. That's probably the reason he pulled out last time, implying that he needed time to cycle off the juice. Well, he's not the only one who thought that. I thought it, but I won't go as far to call him a fucking cheat, because I don't know. Now, when he says everything stinks, I don't think he's just talking about the elevated human growth hormone levels and the testosterone levels. Apparently, there's going to be an 18 by 18 foot ring. Is that as small as they can go? Well, obviously, that's not for Callum Smith's benefit. But the ring, well, he's the champion and you're in Canada. So I can't say nothing on that. It's legal. And if I was Beterbiev's promoter, I would have did the same thing. I'm going to stay pragmatic and keep the thoughts in my head about the elevated levels. I won't say anything. Even if Smith is knocked out brutally, I won't say anything. But if you're asking me if I trust the man who defended Antonio Margarito, saying he never knew that his hands were wrapped in plaster Paris before he fought Shane Mosley, before Nassim Richardson caught him, no, I don't believe Bob Arum. If you think I believe that scumbag for 1 second, no, I don't. I know the history of this guy. He's a scumbag. I don't care if he's Uncle Bob to you. He's not Uncle Bob to me. He's scum.
And the one thing I can't tolerate is injustice, particularly in this country. Because throughout this long ordeal, certain things became evident. One, Antonio Margarito did not know that those hand wraps were illegal, and there was something bad in those wraps.
This man is despicable. And he tried the same thing in front of Jim Lampley, Max Kellerman, I believe Emmanuel Stewart. I remember Kellerman and Manny Stewart taking Bob Arum apart, and he was throwing his hands up in defiance. The crowd was booing him, and he didn't give a shit. No, I don't trust that man. But Callum Smith can't be looking no favors or no sympathies in a fight. It is what it is. And yes, I do believe there's one rule for Matchroom and another rule for others. I do believe that.
Okay, fellas, let's get it on. Okay, fellas, let's get it on.
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, let's get ready to rumble!
This is Tony Thompson, chilling with boxing beats and rhymes.